This week, President Biden laid out a very ambitious goal. He wants 70% of the world's population to be vaccinated against COVID in the next year. But for many nations, that is a huge challenge. In the tiny African kingdom of Lesotho, the official death toll there is around 400, but it's thought to be much higher. Debora Patta traveled there to see the difficulties firsthand, especially when it comes to rural communities, which just are very hard to reach.
As dawn breaks, pilot Matthew Monson gets ready for a busy day ahead. He makes the final checks before flying health workers on the pandemic frontline to the most remote parts of Lesotho.
It's not called the Mountain Kingdom for nothing, but that makes places like this really hard to reach. And often the weather is volatile as well, hampering efforts to get those vaccines into arms.
Dr. Justin Sashir is supervising the COVID vaccine rollout from the skies. He's skeptical about achieving a 70% global vaccination rate within 1 year.
The suggestion of President Biden to vaccinate 70% of population in African continent. This can be really a big challenge.
Lesotho believes it will get enough vaccines to inoculate its nearly 1.6 million adult population, but acquiring them is only half the battle.
But sometimes the challenge is how we can reach them.
In the village of Gayle King, only 5 people have turned up for a shot. One of them is 69-year-old Kapajana Mapondo.
So it took you 2 hours to walk here? 2 hours?
People have to cross mountains and rivers to get to clinics. Donkeys are the most common form of transport if you're lucky enough to own one. Our next stop is Manamaneng. Sometimes the wind is so bad flying is impossible, but today there's a different obstruction preventing us from touching down.
Sure, well, that was a little bit of an interesting landing. We had to abort the first one because there were too many sheep on the runway. Just one of the hazards of flying in Lesotho.
But a hazardous landing is only the start of the obstacles facing these health workers.
We have to move out in the village to find people from their homes.
So instead of waiting for people to come to the clinic, they're taking the vaccines to them. But like so many far-flung African regions, the pace of vaccinations is excruciatingly slow. And while wealthier nations roll out third COVID booster shots, they remain dangerously exposed to a looming fourth wave. For CBS Mornings, Debora Patta, Lesotho.